Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan, our middle of the week Inside the Birds, and we are previewing an NFC divisional round game, of course, featuring the Eagles and the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams shocked the world, Adam, as the 4th seed, right? I know it's not maybe the biggest
I
shock.
got it wrong. I had a good week. I was 5-2, but man, I
That's
was
tough.
stunned, man. Sam Bradford, not Sam dummy, Sam Kane, wrong quarterback. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Sam Darnold, boy, Darnold was so bad.
Uh-huh.
There's a saying with coaches, like if a guy gets sacked a lot, it's usually more on the quarterback, not the lineman.
Yep.
Obviously, they would know they're coaching, but to get sacked, he struggled against Detroit. I know they came after him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get the blitz numbers. I'm interested to find out what the actual real blitz numbers were. But Darnold would hold on to the ball like, dude, what are you doing? Get rid of bleeping football. It
It
was
was,
really bad. Like he looked like Greg Cosell comes out with that line that for Darnold that he used to be stuck.
yeah.
He doesn't know where to go. Like he's processing. He can't get off one or the half field read. And if it's taken, he's like, what do I do? He'd scramble.
Right.
Just didn't. He looked so bad on Monday night. I almost felt bad for him. Like, dude, man, you threw away the whole season. You played so well. You were so bad. Like, let's say you were thinking you were going to make 30 to 35 million. We cut that in half,
Yeah.
maybe three quarters something. You
Yeah,
know?
that was tough. You're right. It was sort of like watching a car wreck in real time. You felt a little bad. I feel this way about the Vikings as we'll get into the Eagles in a second, but the
Yeah.
Vikings are like the same team every year each time they make the playoffs, whether it's Sam Bradford, as you mentioned, or Case Keenum, or Kirk Cousins, or even Randall Cunningham when he went there and had that MVP year
Out of
in
the blue, by the way, out of the
what's that?
blue.
Out of the blue, right? That's what I'm
Randall's
saying.
career,
Yeah.
Randall's career was pretty much over.
Uh-huh.
And then Brian Billick and obviously Randy Moss, Chris Carter. You never know. It's like with
Right.
Sam Darnold. Who the hell saw this?
Right.
He goes to Kyle Shanahan last year. Okay. Learns the West Coast offense. Great. Fine. Kevin O'Connell's a quarterback whisperer, but unfortunately, the whispering became too loud because Darnold couldn't function.
Right.
Anyway.
And so I just feel for the Rich Gannon. It seems like
Yeah.
they
Wow.
always get this journeyman type guy who kind of puts it together and gets them to a certain level, and then they just collapse in the. But it's like
Good.
it's like the Cinderella story where the chariot goes back into a pumpkin, or the coach goes back to a pumpkin,
Yeah.
and that's really what
Honestly,
happened.
yep. The pumpkin, it's midnight, and unfortunately, he put double ones, snake eyes, because no, I'll tell you, and as we move on here,
Hmm.
this might be an historically bad free agent class for free agency. Like it's
Hmm.
bad, unless you're getting someone via trade, a backup that you like. Kirk Cousins, of course, the Falcons would rather move him than cut him and eat the 27 million. That's fully guaranteed. But the bottom line is, man, if you don't have a quarterback, you're looking for one. Now they have JJ McCarthy. They're gonna have to make a decision.
Hmm.
And what the Darnold's a free agent, people will want him because if you look at the list that's out there, it's dreadful.
Right.
But the bottom line is, man, at this time of year, you're trying to be healthy and functioning. And as we turn the page to this Rams game on Sunday, it's going to be interesting to see because the Rams shocked me. I didn't see that coming. The Eagles have played pretty well against them the last 2 years, both in LA, but this one's going to be on the road outside. Outside those outside numbers, be careful because their record outdoors is really good.
Hmm.
I'm thinking SoFi must have a retractable roof because how could they be like they play more? It says more games outside than anywhere. I'm like that makes no sense. How could they
Yeah.
possibly play more games
In
outside?
their division alone, they play against two other
Yeah,
teams. Well, is Seattle considered outside or inside? I mean, they
that's
got
outdoors for Christ's. Yeah, I
okay,
thought
yeah,
the same
that's
thing.
definitely
So I'll
outdoors.
give you.
Okay, yeah,
All right, so their outdoor numbers, which I thought were, I'm like this can't be right. Their outdoor numbers were 9-5. Again, SoFi must have a retractable roof
hmm,
because if you look at their true outdoor, okay, at the Lions week one, they lost indoors. They're at the Cardinals, that probably had the roof open. Well, in September, I guess maybe they had it out. Maybe they did. At Chicago, it's definitely outdoors.
yep,
At the revamped Soldier Field, at Seattle, they won in week 9. At New England, obviously outdoors
hmm,
in week 11. Okay, they have that. Week 13 at New Orleans indoors, at the Niners outdoors in week 15, at the Jets certainly outdoors. Then now again at home against the Cardinals and the Seahawks. Now, what do you are you because they it says technically they're only 1 and 2 indoors. That makes no freaking sense.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. Hey, you're right. It must be the retractable roof. Yeah, I'm not surprised the Rams won. I'm just surprised that they kicked the crap out of them the way they did. Final score being 27-9. You're talking about a Vikings offense that scored a lot of points and has a lot of weaponry. So the Rams come in to Philadelphia Sunday, 3 o'clock. In this podcast, Adam, we'll get into some of the transactions, and there have been quite a few for a team that's in the middle of the playoffs. There have been some developments that we heard from the coordinators as far as some personnel. And of course, there will be, injuries that we will get into for both teams. If you want a broader discussion, Adam, Andrew DeCecco, and I did a second straight week of roundtable preview where we went through everything we saw in the Packers game and how that parlays to the Rams game. It's up on all of our platforms, so check it out. It's a great, what we call it, a roundtable discussion, but we really do it through Zoom, of course. But just a good
Yeah.
mix of analysis, intel, opinion, and just a good way to summarize that Packers game and then look ahead to the Rams game with Andrew DeCecco, who's always in the locker room writing great content for InsideTheBirds.com. I thought Q&A was masterful this past week. Really got to check out what Quentin Michael and Jason Devon had to say, both about the defense and the offense. I mean, they really outlined specifically some of the things they thought the Eagles did really well and why, and some of the things that didn't go well and why, obviously, defensively and offensively in that game. And, with Nakobe Dean's injury and being out for the year with the patellar tendon tear, just another special thanks to former Eagles athletic trainer Aaron Borgman, who, at the snap of a finger, Adam retweeted something he did on X, and then all of a sudden we're like, hey, let's get him on and have him talk about the patellar tendon tear, what it means for Nakobe, what the comeback process is like, how the procedure compares to other knee injuries and other knee repairs, and then of course what to expect from Nakobe once he does get back. It was really good stuff with Aaron Borgman.
By the way, it was awesome. He was also 25. You can get in and out, folks, if you want to, if you're taking your train on the way home from work. It's a very quick interview, but it's phenomenal. It actually broke some old news going back to 2011
Mm-hmm.
with Brandon Graham. When we knew he had an ACL injury, what we didn't know was that I'd have to. Did he say he tore his patella and his ACL?
He did.
I've never heard that in 27 years. Like that a player on the same injury. And as you remember, because you recalled it, his rehab was longer, but we didn't know why. Well, we didn't know why.
Right.
He said patella, as Aaron confirmed. We knew this. I mean, he confirmed it's longer. It's 9 to 10 months in his, without even looking at the MRI. Just in general, it's a 9 to 10 month rehab. We know ACL 6 to 9, but it's not. See, I think what happens is when you hear patella tendon, because it's such a rare injury in sports. Oh no, it could be 12 to 16 months. Not anymore.
Right.
Now we know Nate Allen had it, and we know he was not the same when he came back. He would later leave the Eagles and become he was better. But it's not the death knell for a career it once was, as Aaron talks about in this podcast. Just medical science has become better, so it's not as bad as it used to be. But for Nakobe, it's unbelievably sad.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, he
know,
was having a great game too, honestly. And
yeah. What did that look like to you? I know you watched the tape. What did
I
it look
said
like to you?
this. Yeah, I said this in the round table, and yeah, I think people know me by now. I'm not really one for hyperbole, but I thought he was having his best game as an Eagle. Like his ability, not only to diagnose and key, but to get to the spot, to get around the offensive lineman, to tracking the ball carrier in the run game, getting there on a screens. He blew up a screen that could have gone for big yardage if he wasn't there. He was just like, I don't want to say, I mean, he's been very good all year, but it was almost like he was possessed at him. He was just making
Mm.
plays everywhere. So
Key and diagnose. Yeah, key and diagnose.
cruel irony, right? That he would wind up getting hurt in that game. And by the way, and we'll talk about this a little bit,
Yeah.
the drop off to Oren Burks, who of course is a backup, and it's not like he's always working with the ones, but the drop off and the keying, the diagnosing, the ability to get to the spot as quickly was pretty evident. And you saw the Packers really implement that into their game plan. You say, oh, they only scored 10 points. Well, that doesn't really matter. The point is they funneled their offense toward Oren Burks, and they started to make bigger plays. The one to Jaden Reed, the one, obviously you saw the big play, the big run by Josh
Jacobs.
Jacobs. They were
Was Burks? Burks was on the field then?
yes,
Oh boy.
I'm
Okay.
yeah, I'm pretty sure he was for the
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the
Yeah.
he was on the field quite a bit. I mean, almost the whole second half, and
Yeah.
it was really obvious the drop off there. So they'll have to. That's something they'll have to navigate and
Yeah.
work around. And we'll get into in this podcast how they might fill that role. Greg Cosell was great on Tuesday night. Another reason why you got to be a Patreon member. You get all the intel, all the observations. You have to ask him your Eagles questions, and he gives you great answers and tape observations. So that's inside the. We're going to continue this in the offseason, by the way, with his off-season stuff, draft stuff, doing Ask Greg Cosell. We're going to do our best to have that on Patreon. So it's patreon.com/inside the birds.
Oh, and then Thursday, by the way, Thursday, I'm gonna drop a couple of things I've been holding for Patreon members, so we'll talk about that. Yeah, we always we like dropping some pretty big things for them, and I always look and their mouths drop like what? We talk about stuff that's happened over the years, storytelling, and then background, and we move stuff forward which people don't really understand or know about, and it's fun. We enjoy. We've got to know. Every once in a while, somebody shows up who we know they're a subscriber. We haven't met them yet, but we meet them over Zoom. And one of these days, we can ever do it locally. But see, I notice when I look through our subscribe member list, a lot of people don't live in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, Delaware area, or even New York. So, you can't have, we can't ask 100, 200 people to fly in. Maybe we'll have a
We will
convention or something.
do we'll do a Bourbon Street meetup or something like
Oh,
that.
all right, okay,
If
all
we're
right.
down there and it works out.
We'll
I'm
do
sure a lot
that.
of people will fly in.
If I know Peter King used to do it.
Yep.
I was retired now. But yeah, that's a great idea if the Eagles make it. Yeah. All right. Done.
All right.
Done.
I was gonna say drinks on us, but I don't know how many people will show up, and we're a
No,
small.
I don't. I'm out of money.
All right. Let's get into some transactions. Now, we talked about Nakobe Dean out for the rest of the playoffs with a patellar tendon tear. So he goes on injured reserve. And then the team also releases wide receiver Joseph Ngata from
You
the
got it.
practice squad so that they can add a couple of players. So, Adam, they add Nick Morrow to the practice squad. Makes a lot of sense. Knows the scheme, knows the team, started 12 games for the Eagles last year, can play special teams. So he's on the practice squad to give them depth, very likely to be an elevation. We'll see how that goes. And then also they sign a wide receiver, Elijah Cooks. What can you tell us about Elijah Cooks?
Yeah, I know about this guy. He's a big dude. I saw him in Jaguars camp when he was a rookie. So he went to Nevada, then transferred to San Jose State. He's a big guy, 6'4". To me, he's more, and I've seen Joe and God. I know Joe and God as a rookie had a nice training camp. But Cooks is a better football player to me.
Mm.
This is a good developmental guy for their offseason. Get him in there, see what you got. He's a bottom of the roster guy. I get that, but there's some talent here from this guy. The Jaguars had him for 2 years, mostly in the practice squad, a little bit on the 53.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick Morrow's back. By the Nick Morrow, who was released from the Bills practice squad. Boy, talk about serendipitous. Like you need we talked about it in the emergency pod that they have to sign a veteran. They can't go with the Dallas Gant kid.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it, if one of the three top guys now gets hurt, Dallas Gant's the top backup. That ain't happening. Like you just can't do that. As a matter of, and we'll talk about it in a minute, the rotation that could happen, which is fascinating.
Yep.
But Nick Morrow's back, knows the defense, and Paris Campbell. Did you find this interesting that they signed Paris Campbell off the practice squad? They didn't need to do this. I was kind of surprised by that.
Didn't they elevate him for the game?
Right, but remember they have unlimited elevation. Like you could
you still have only 2 elevations per game, so you got to figure one of them is going to go to Nick Morrow.
Okay.
One of them could go again to Carrie Blasingame, correct? Or is he?
Yeah, that boy. By the way, he only was on the field for 2 plays, but okay, they clearly want to use the fullback. They're not. This is.
Do they just see? That's the issue we have to talk about with this.
Only 2 plays, but
why? What are you trying? What is your goal to put him out there for?
Well, here's the thing. Helen really liked having a fullback, and I can't think of the guy's name. I know we talked about this months ago.
With Dallas.
Yeah, and I can't remember the name. I'm going to look it up.
Go ahead.
But he likes the fullback, and then he hasn't really used it very much.
Right, but like, you're playing an important playoff game and you throw a fullback on the field for 2 snaps for what? Like, what identity are you establishing in those 2 snaps
Well,
of
maybe it's
fullback?
okay because we know Calcaterra. I'm sorry, he has not blocked well. He's regressed as a blocker in season.
Right. I would say then use him more. Like you're defining yourself as a
Right.
running
Sure.
team. You have
Sure.
a fullback. You want to run. Use him. There were a lot of Barkley runs that were forced laterally. That I mean, it wasn't his best running game by far this year. Obviously, people saw that. He only had about
Yeah.
2 or 3 big ones. So if you don't love Calcaterra's blocking and you want to take it, put passing game on the field more. That's why you
I
have
mean,
him.
I get right. And see, the issue is that Calcaterra is a much better athlete, and you have to understand. The fullbacks. I know Patrick Ricard plays a lot. The fullback who's 300 pounds, by the way, for Baltimore. But I was just kind of surprised. I'm like, if you're going to use a fullback, and this is what you're talking about, like like you got to use him more than like 2 snaps. But Kellen really wants to clearly wants to have a fullback on the field. Like he had a couple of them. I'm looking at the names. One guy I don't even know how to pronounce it. Oh, I remember this guy, Jameis Olawale. I remember he was around the league for years. I think Flip had him. I think John had him
Right.
in Jacksonville. Kellen, I guess his mentor Scott Linehan and maybe
Yeah, no,
the other
I
guy.
get it. Like
Yeah,
I mean, listen, there's a reason why Ben Van Sumeren was moved to fullback because
there you go. Yeah, good call. We
But
forgot.
guess what?
We forgot
Even
about him.
Ben Van Sumeren played more than 2 snaps when he was in there. So again, that's why
And
I'm
he's a pretty good
wondering.
athlete, right? Yeah,
Right.
there he is, Jameis Olawale, who was also in Oakland.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, clearly he wants to use him, but maybe on your point, it's so late in the year, you didn't have this guy in the offseason,
right.
but he does like using it. And now I know what you're saying is like, well, is it really noticeable? We'll ask Greg when we do the Inside the Tape show
Mhm.
tonight, kind of what if he noticed. He probably didn't even notice. It's only 2 snaps,
Right.
but anyway.
Anyway, so that's why I'm not surprised. They might use their two elevations on Blasting Game and on Nick Morrow, and so if you want Paris Campbell for the depth, which you need, then you sign him to the 53. So that's what I
Yep.
felt went into that. And those are basically the transactions for the Eagles. Playoffs. We're talking about playoffs. You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple, like a player to score 6. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Right now on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, the Eagles are plus 450 to win the Super Bowl. What do you say, Birds fans? New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code BIRDS pregame. That's code BIRDS pregame, all one word, for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in New York. Call 8777-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Let's get into the injury update, sponsored by, of course, our friends at Stretch Zone Offense, Adam. AJ Brown, left knee. That is a concern, obviously. I mean, I was looking for answers in watching the All 22. And it is clear to me that, and listen, we're not unlocking secrets here, right? AJ Brown has said his knee is bothering him. I don't think you see the same explosion when he does get popped downfield every once in a while. And I think you're not seeing him used in certain looks down the field. And in fact, if anything, it looks like Devontae Smith is now the guy that they use more on the deeper routes, and they use AJ Brown for your quick comebacks, your stop routes, your sit routes, things like that. So when we start talking about this offense and what's wrong with it, is it Jalen Hurts? Is it an offensive coordinator? Is it there's a whole lot that goes into it, but I think it's compounded by the fact that AJ Brown is not making the big downfield plays that this offense had become accustomed to.
Yeah, we asked Greg and Greg talked about it with the Patreon members about what the tape looked like with AJ, and he noticed it. So um, it's something that I would tell folks who are going to go to the game Sunday. Watch AJ in warmups. Game is at 3 o'clock. Warm-up should be between the beginning of the early part of warm-ups when guys start jogging and getting loose. Should be between 12:30 and 1. If you get they usually let the fans in 2 hours before, if I recall correctly.
That was three, but okay, yeah.
Yeah, well, at least, yeah, right. At least three, but certainly 2 to 2.5 hours before. So I'd be watching him because I've done that for when I would go to the games. I was one of the first media guys in there, and if I got field access, I like watching warm-ups anyway. But if there was a guy coming back from an injury, I would watch that. Like that was always on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, folks, if you get in, watch him run. Number 11, see how he's moving.
All right, there you go. That's the offensive one. And by the way, obviously the first practice will be today. So anything that is a pop-up injury or anything that we don't know about will come out in the injury report. The first one will be out today, which is Wednesday. Defense, we know Nakobe Dean will not be on the field for the rest of the playoffs with the torn patellar tendon that we talked about. Now, the interesting thing on that, Adam, is Vic Fangio, who is the anti Nick Sirianni when it comes to injury information, was asked if he would consider playing Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And not only did he say, yeah, I'd consider it, he almost forecasted that it was likely that those two guys between Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Oren Burks would be used in a platoon role. In fact, the quote was, the future looks good and the future might be now. So
Yeah. The way you said it, I was like,
I was waiting for Nick to jump in and be like, beep, no, stop.
don't give that out. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I remember when Jim Johnson for us, he would give out stuff. Then he laughed and goes, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that." And he'd just laugh.
Right.
He was so great.
Yeah.
But when you talk about Vic, he just doesn't even think twice. He's like, "This is what we're doing. This is what we're thinking." It's like Dan Campbell, right? Dan Campbell gives out great information. He knows it. He's not giving it. He goes, they could pretty much figure it out anyway by depth charts or what the tape looks like. Who's the first guy in when a guy got hurt? Burks is the first guy in, so he's clearly going to start. Now, but Vic said, yeah, but we might have a rotation. Now, situationally, is Burks the run game guy? Is because Trot Jr.'s smaller? Is he? I don't know.
I just don't know if Trot Jr.'s coverage is his strong point either. So I tend to think this might be more per series than per down and distance because A, you don't want to telegraph.
Maybe so. Sure.
And B, Vic made the point. Both of these guys are key special teamers. You saw how nice the hit Oren Burks made right on the opening kickoff. So
yeah, although Keyshawn Nixon,
I agree with you. A,
he's not wrong.
That might have been targeting. B, I don't even know how that was considered a recovery.
Yeah, that's another thing. But no, when you lower your head to initiate contact, that's a penalty. He was helmet to helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Nixon, I was shocked. Matt LaFleur complains about everything. He is like my top three baby head coaches who complain about everything. He's like the Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse, the Sixers head coach. I could not stand him when he was the Raptors head coach. The biggest whiner, complainer. Matt LaFleur complains about everything and whines.
Mm-hmm.
But I was shocked. He was just asking. Maybe he didn't see the replay.
Right.
Keyshawn Nixon said it after the game, and I don't disagree. But hey, they didn't call it, so it wasn't a flag.
Yeah.
But this is fascinating because Trot Jr., as we know, behind the scenes, has been great. Like he's really advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Now with Nakobe's injury and Burks is on a 1-year deal, you have to start talking about now. Okay, Bond's. Well, we know the Eagles want Bond back, but if by a rare chance he's not back, you're running out of players.
Yeah. Yeah, at a position that you're constantly rotating guys.
Oh,
anyway,
enough of that. Yes, please, no more.
I know. Nobody buys an Eagles inside linebacker jersey, right? Like no fan. You're looking at the Zach Bond one right now if you're an Eagles fan, and you're like,
he's 53. Is he 53?
Yeah, he's 53, and you're like, okay. You want to do it, you want to buy it, you want to support, but you can't be sure he's going to be.
No, it's so funny because when we had Joe Banner on, I didn't ask him the last time, but I remember I put him on the spot on one of our interviews with him on Patreon. I said, all right, Joe, what the hell's with you with the linebackers? He goes, wait a minute. We never said we wanted bad linebackers. We just didn't want them to hurt us.
Right.
And I didn't know that he was going to respond that way. I wish I could have. I'm like, wait a minute. I should have brought out, was it Brian Roll,
Oh my
Greg
God.
Lloyd Jr.? You could, everybody know
Yeah.
it's the who's who of bottom of the end linebackers.
Yep.
But to moving forward here, the funny thing about Bond is he wasn't signed to play linebacker. He
That
was
is
signed to
funny.
play edge rusher, and you just that's the beauty of this team this year. And N'Kobe, who got hurt, nobody knew he would have been this good.
Right.
We know about Jalen Carter, you know, and who, by the way, would clean up stuff for the run game so the guys could get downhill and fill.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been interesting. So we'll see. I'm fascinated because nobody knows because we haven't had this happen where Dean's not playing and they're going to have this rotation. Look, the future is now. As Vic said, let's see what Trot Jr. is capable of doing. We know that they're very happy with him, but just saying it with coaching, you don't really know till you get there. And we know Burks has started a lot of games in the National Football League. We just don't know what it's going to look like without Dean.
That's right. All right, so we'll see what about that. And on the other injury on defense, of course, sort of that happened in the game was Slay came out with an elbow injury. Isaiah Rogers wound up playing. I think Rogers played about 16 snaps, so he got some time in there. Now the Packers tried to test Rogers. If you remember, they ran a very funky looking play where it was supposed to be a run, but Love just pulled it back and he fired it into the right corner of the end zone, and Rogers was there. So
Yeah,
that was a nice little alert play by Isaiah Rogers, who's done all right when he's had to fill in.
been a
But
good
Slay,
story. Is it
hopefully Slay is all right.
third? Yep, third out. Oh, I should mention it because I didn't hear it, but on Tuesday's Football Forward, our friend Josh Henning,
Hmm.
who's Mike Gill's producer, said, "Hey, I maybe he listens part of the show to get clips from Darius's show, or he just heard it." But he said because when I mentioned he had an elbow injury, he said, "Yeah, it actually, I guess he went numb or he didn't have any feeling in it, kind of
Hmm.
like Jordan Love did
Hmm.
with his right elbow." But he said it came back and he was okay. As a matter of fact, don't forget, as we kind of predicted would happen, Dontavian Wicks would be their shot play guy, and they went after Slay, and guess what? Slay won.
He did win. Although
Great, great
it was
play.
was it against Slay where Wicks made that really nice you remember Love just flung the ball down the right sideline to him and he made a really
Yes,
nice contested catch.
yes, that was an
But in
amazing play.
general, Wicks was not none of them were able to get a
No,
consistent
that
amount of big plays against the Eagles.
I thought because the weather held up. I know Matt LaFleur can't help himself. He has to be balanced. He has to run the football. That's fine. I mean,
Mhm.
whatever. But they didn't have Christian Watson, and that was a factor. Now in this Rams game, they tried with Tutu Atwell in that first game, and he dropped it. It was a post route. I'm seeing it in front of me, and I could not believe he dropped it. In fact,
Mhm.
our Andrew DeCecco was at the game, and he saw it from the press box there, so he saw it.
Yeah.
But they don't really. Jordan Whittington's. We'll talk more about him on our Friday morning show.
Yep.
He's been a nice story. Who's got good size, but he's not they don't have a blazer. Demarcus Robinson's not a blazer,
Nope.
and that to me that helps the Eagles
I
because they
agree
don't
with
have anyone who could fly anymore, and they don't that not having a guy who could be a shot play receiver who could tilt coverage. Look, that helps your defense.
Yeah, no doubt. And Cooper Cup, I mean, he's a couple of years removed now from,
Yeah.
the Triple Crown when he was unbelievable. Receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns leader in the league. And, what do you have? One catch in this game against the Vikings? It's just shocking to me that the Rams are still this good without Cooper Cup being involved. I know how good Puka Nacua is, but you kind of need more than one weapon. But the Rams have been able to figure it out by, running the ball, Kyron Williams, and throwing it to Nacua like 80% of the time, it seems.
By the way, exactly. Kyron Williams is one of these stories in scouting. Like everyone I talked to who scouted him got it wrong. They thought, no way, he's not a feature back. He's too small. Injuries. He's a nice second back.
Hmm.
We'll get to their injury report, which is we're going to update their injury report. We got it, so we'll update that for you in the next segment. But Kyron Williams has been one of these, and for fantasy too. Like he's been unbelievable. Like I just can't believe how good he is. A really good back. I know he's in a great system. I get it. Great
Yeah, no,
coaching,
he's
but the
good
kid's
though. Yeah,
what's that?
he's good. You're right though.
Good player, man. He's
He's
got versatility.
hard to tackle.
Yeah,
He runs with great leverage. You can stay low to the ground.
great
Not a big
vision.
guy.
Yeah,
I
no,
really thought I'm like you. I really thought Blake Corum going into the year was going to take that job by
yeah.
week 8, but
Well, I
Kyron
didn't think he'd
Williams has
take
done
it, but
well.
I thought they'd at least make it a two-man backfield. Okay, make it 2-1 split. None of that. Like when you spend a pick on a third rounder, that guy's got to play. I mean,
Yeah.
if he's ready. But the Shanahan tree started with Mike. He does not rotate his backs. And Sean doesn't. Kyle doesn't. Really, Guerrero had to play because the other guys got hurt.
Hmm.
I think Guerrero was like fourth on the depth chart, then three, then two, then one. Everyone else got hurt, but that's fine. Look, I don't agree with it, but you know what? Sean McVay's a hell of a coach, and he knows what he's doing. But you got to be careful because when you don't want the guys to wear down, and he's not. By the way, Kyron Williams is not built like Barkley. He's not a big guy. That's why
No, he's
people are
not.
surprised that he could be
Right.
a feature back with the volume. It's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. A great success story for the Rams. The whole team really is because they had no first round picks for so long, and yet they really hit on a lot of day two and day three guys. But back to Slay. He should be good. We'll see. And
Yep.
again,
Yep.
the first injury report will come out after practice today. And
Pop-ups.
we'll see if there are any pop-ups. That's right. Hopefully the
Hopefully.
Eagles do not have any pop-up injuries. So the Eagles injuries were presented by our friends at Stretch Zone. Get a free, that's right, a free, as Adam likes to say, no obligation 30-minute stretch at Stretch Zone. Just go to stretchzone.com. And when you go into Stretch Zone, there's so many different places you can go. Adam, tell them where they can go.
All right, so 12 locations in Pennsylvania, New Jersey,
12?
just
You
for
said 12? That's a lot of
yeah,
locations.
yeah, it is, it is, and one of these days, I know some of our listeners, two or three people I've run into over the last couple of months there. It's pretty cool. Haverford near Suburban Square. Love going to that one off Lancaster Avenue. Devon, which is probably the Devon one's also in Lancaster. That's near the Whole Foods. It's about a 10-minute drive from the Haverford. Exton, you'll see me occasionally there at Whiteland Town Center. Seeing Austin, Nick, Emily, or Madison, or Hassan, the manager. They're great people. South Philly near Graduate Hospital on 25th and Washington Ave. I've not been to that one. I've been to their Upper Dublin one in Dresher, that area in the Promenade off 611. Feasterville, Southampton, Lower Southampton Village, Elkins Park, where I grew up, in Elkins Park Plaza there. Right across the street from the old Old York Road skating rink. Yes, I actually would skate. And I was so bad. God. Did you ice skate when you were a kid?
Not well. I
Terrible.
tried.
Yeah. I
Not
was a good
well.
roller skater, terrible ice skater. That's
Neither.
why I
I
didn't play
never
hockey. I
did
played
either.
street hockey. What's that?
I wasn't very good at either.
Did you do street hockey?
No.
Oh, I love street hockey. Oh, because I grew up in Philly, man. The Flyers were it. I became a
I
Cap
played
fan, I
street
should admit.
baseball,
What's that?
street baseball and
Oh,
basketball.
street. Oh, with stickball. Stickball?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. All
Absolutely.
right. In Jersey, Cherry Hill. I know you go to either one on Evesham Road, Mont
Hmm.
Laurel, Centerton Square, Wegmans, right?
Yep.
Greg, we're sending Greg in after the Super Bowl. After we get back from the Super Bowl, we're sending him there, and because he loves to brag about how much he works out at 5 a.m. Get out of here. He was working out at 5 a.m. Franklin Lakes also on Franklin Ave, Northfield, Tilton Road, Princeton, Nassau Park, Pavilion. Three ways to do it. Stretchzone.com. Fill out the information. It takes 20 seconds. You could call there, call your local branch, or you can go in like I did by chance. I just happened to see it. I'm like, okay. I called Spadauer. He goes, go in right now. I'm like, what do I do? I don't know anything about this. He goes, get your hamstrings done. Done. I took my free stretch, no obligation, no pressure. I was hooked. I'm like, I'm signing up for this now. This is a game changer for me. And that was over 3 years ago.
Great
Love it.
stuff. Glad it. Rams injuries now. Let's talk about those. Now, we already mentioned Blake Corum, running back. He's going to be out. He's on IR. He broke his forearm in week 18.
Oh,
And
poor
that
guy.
makes, I know that sucks. Sucks. That makes Ronnie Rivers the number two running back, kind of a different style of running back than Blake Corum.
Yes. By the way, for those of you who are old enough, you might remember his dad, Ron Rivers, who played for the aforementioned Mike Shanahan. He was like a number three back, and his son Ronnie is still hanging in there.
Mhm.
He's now the number two back because Corum in week 18, a game that meant nothing, but of course they wanted to feature Corum, and he was going to be the feature back, but he broke his forearm, so he will not play in the playoffs no matter how far they go. And now this one, boy, it's always scary when a player goes to the hospital because of a chest injury.
Mhm.
And Sean McVay he's also good with injuries. He said there was some bleeding, but they took care of it. As of now, they expect him to play. And by the way, he was killing the Vikings on the tunnel or hide screens or short area passes running. He's a big time athlete, really good player. Because they play so much 11 personnel, they like to keep their tight ends in. But when they let this guy catch the football, man, You remember that 3 touchdown game in
Oh,
the
I
COVID year
remember.
in Philly? Yeah,
I remember.
with the seats with the cut cardboard cutouts. It's
Yeah.
so weird.
Yeah.
And then so they expect him to play. Now this now we'll see with this one. Killer Witherspoon is one of their top three outside corners. He's revived his career. This guy's he's played in the Super Bowl before with the 49ers. He played for Pittsburgh, Seattle. He's kind of a bunch of guys have revived their careers. He's one of them with the Rams. You mentioned, I know in the previous show, we talked about Darius Williams, who's now starting, who left the team, then came back. He was with Baltimore. He's on a
Hmm.
free agent deal, but he's back. But we'll keep an eye on this one. We'll have an update for you on Friday morning show. See if he could practice. I'm sure they're going to do a walkthrough today because they got back early Tuesday morning. But they're a team that doesn't practice hard anyway. To be honest with you, they're pretty light in regular season. You get that. This time of year, you can't be working. You can't be like grinding these guys. But this is an injury to watch. This is one that's important because you need someone who's big and physical. Witherspoon's one of the taller corners of the National Football League. This one is one to watch as we get through the week.
Yeah, the one about Higby was incredible, only because, to your point, he was in the hospital. They said he was coughing up a little blood, so they got
Yeah.
worried. And then I was watching or listening to Sean McVay's press conference, and he made it seem like everything's going to be all right, and he's expecting him to play. So I'm like, wow, this guy must be tough as nails. You can't
Yeah,
be
I
in the
mean,
hospital coughing up blood. You ain't going to see
well,
me for 3 weeks.
yeah, you're worried about a lung. You're worried about potentially chest contusion.
Yeah.
You got to get the fluid out. But yeah, that's you're always worried about that when someone's sent to the hospital because of with a chest injury. So again, they expect him. Colby Parkinson has signed the big free agent deal. When they go, they don't run a lot of 12 personnel. When they do, Higbee will be the move tight end. Parkinson, we'll talk more about this Friday. He'll be their inline tight end. He came over from Seattle. But they're I'll say this about the Rams. They know who they are. They play a certain way,
Mhm.
and they're going to try to spread you out. They don't really, when I say that though, they don't really use they don't have a true outside receiver. They use reduced splits where you see Puka Nakul on one side, a couple on the other, or sometimes they line them up on the same side, but again, they're reduced. And then you'll see Demarcus Robinson, who was helping people win fantasy leagues at the end of the 23 season, came out of absolute nowhere to start blowing it up as their third receiver. And you'll see Jordan Whittington as their fourth if they ever play any 10 personnel. But
Mhm.
that's pretty much it. We'll break it down more. Their special teams guy, their punter's good, their kicker's good. They're a really well coached team. They're not the most talented team, but man, the coaching is really, really good.
100%. And I love how you said that they stick to what they do. They have an identity, because I want to talk about the Eagles in that regard for a second. First, we're going to hear a word from our friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you head out to Sky Motor Cars in Westchester, PA, please be sure to tell them that Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal. You're going to get great customer service anyway. You're going to get great inventory to look at. You're going to have great conversations about either buying or trading in a car. But if you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you, it's like everything else. It's like you're in the penthouse now. You get the royal treatment. You get the grapes and the palm leaves and all that great stuff.
Ask for the pullover from Brett Schulter, the owner. Tell him I'll pay for it if they want me to pay for it. Their pullovers are really cool.
Yeah.
But or a golf shirt, maybe they have a golf shirt. Yeah, we need to get a golf shirt from. I need a new mug from them from Sky Motor Cars, and I need to update my stuff.
See, the merch and the swag is great too. That's another
I
great
know,
reason
man.
to go.
No, you're right. Real quick before we move on, that if you read their reviews, whether it's Google, Cars.com, anywhere, I mean, their reviews are incredible. It's just they're real, by the way. They're definitely real. In fact, if you look at their IG, look at their IG, which is awesome. See what the customers say. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, 100%. All right. So the point you made was so prescient about the Rams. They know who they are. They know what they do. They stick to it, and they make you defeat that. Whereas the Eagles, Adam, in the pass offense, it's it's really maddening, because I could sit here and you could sit here and we could talk for the next 10 minutes about how discombobulated they looked offensively, passing game wise, against the Packers and what that means for their immediate future here in the playoffs. But they also have this really weird habit of everybody just crapping all over them after a bad passing, and
Oh,
the next game they come out like the Carolina Panthers game. Great example, right? All that how terrible they are. AJ Brown's upset, yada yada yada, and then they go and wax the Steelers, and they come
oh,
out looking like the greatest show on turf Rams and throwing the ball around. So it's very possible they snap out of it and come into this Rams game and they're throwing the ball and connecting and they figure it out. But I just can't for the life of me understand why 18 weeks into a season and now into the playoffs, why they are still so enigmatic, why they're still so inconsistent, why you can look so good one week and the buttons you push are the right ones, and then the next week it's like you just don't have answers for what you're seeing in front of you. It's really frustrating just as an analyst to try to understand.
listen to Q&A. I was listening to him yesterday morning, and I'm only through half the show, but I could just tell because these guys played, they know.
Yep.
There's that, and I'll just take this a step further. Clearly, the Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts have to get on the same page. There's just something. You just mentioned it. How could Jalen look the best he's looked in 2 years? The Pittsburgh game, he was unbelievable, believable. I don't want to curse here.
Mm-hmm.
I was just blown. I haven't watched a lot of tape this season. I watched that tape. And I remember Greg sends us his notes, and Greg just goes by what he sees. He lets the tape tell him. And I'm reading what Greg's like praise is just like phenomenal. I'm like, I gotta watch this tape, and I run up watching it, and I'm like, boy, a number of throws in over the middle, and which he's always been risk averse. He was like unleashed. Like this, where the hell's this been? Like I get what you're saying. Like you just don't know what the hell you're getting. And as you said on the roundtable show, you asked me this. It was a great question because Greg brought it up a couple months ago. At some point, you're probably gonna have to throw to win, like they did. By the way, they threw to run the clock out against Pittsburgh, which like no team does.
Right.
By the way, Kellen did that in Dallas. I should have mentioned that before. Someone told me this who would know. A coach who worked with him told me that because I was like, "What the hell is this?" And he goes, "Oh, we did this when didn't you know this?" And how the hell would I know? It's like I'm not watching Dallas that closely when he was there, but I don't know. I'm with you. They're very enigmatic on offense with a pass game. The run game, they're not. Obviously, we know it starts with a run. But I always thought because Mike Zimmer said this before, when you can't stop a run game, you got to crash the run. You got to load up. You got to figure out you got to stop a team. You would think play action would work and certain things would work off of that to help the pass game. I don't know. I think Kellen has got to figure it out with Jalen because there's just something. There's something missing. I'm with you. I don't know what the hell it is.
And it's really hard to, we'll finish on this, to project what that means because, again, they could be totally different the next game and everything that you said the week before winds up being wrong. But there's no question in my mind after watching it with my eyes, after seeing it again on the All 22, there's no question in my mind that from the very start of that game, even up 10-0, that they coached that game to make no mistakes, to put it in the hands of their defense, even though the running game wasn't dominant, to continue to rely on that and just get by on that alone. And I can't, it's never been the Eagles' motto, even when things are struggling, to do that, to sort of handcuff themselves, to just kind of say, it almost felt to me watching it, Adam, that they told Hurts, we're going to like give you basic concepts here against whatever they do. If it's not there, just take a sack, throw it away. Don't make any mistakes. And
I hate that. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Way to win.
I know exactly. And I know I've seen the comments on our YouTube channel. They're saying actually what you just said.
They
think it's almost like
the third down. Say it. The third down play call.
Well, that third down run. It's funny because they hit one third down run, and look, it was a surprise a number of weeks ago. And I was like, wow, that was beautiful. Okay, that they clearly felt that the front that they're playing against, they thought they could do it. But yeah, before we get out of here, look, I get. This is not what anyone wants to see, is this type of passing game where you have no idea what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about Hurts is, A, he wins, and B, he always seems to rally. He has this sense it could look like, remember when, this is funny because I remember I asked Andy Reid this when It just bothered me. It's one of the Andyisms that just bothered me to no end.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd ask him in a press conference. I go, "Hey, Andy, why do you guys continue to throw when Donovan doesn't have it?" And he would talk about how he's like a pitcher in baseball. You kind of keep throwing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm thinking like, okay, Jalen's struggling a little bit after he was 6 for 6. Let him work his way out of it. And it's kind of like the default setting is just give it to Saquon because he'll save the day,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. But man, I don't know. I'm with
That's
you.
going to be harder and harder, as you know, in the postseason because even game one of Saquon as a Eagles playoff running back,
Yeah.
119 yards. That's good. 4.8 a carry. That's fine. But I mean, it wasn't
Well,
like
the big run
150,
late
160.
would have been like
Yeah,
70.
exactly. Well, that's true. It could have been bigger or late. But yeah, it didn't feel like a vintage
Yes, I agree.
Saquon Barkley game. His longest run was 17 yards, not
Yes.
37 yards. So
Sure.
yeah, like it's going to get tougher, and we'll see. We've said all year long, we hope that this thing doesn't end up short of a Super Bowl, and then the narrative after, the storyline after is, man, they were really awful throwing the ball around. There's so much money they have invested at wide receiver, at tight end, and quarterback to go into a playoff game and then coach scared or timid or coach conservatively not to lose. So that's it. That's the observations. We'll like I said, they could go out and toast the Rams, score 40, and you and I will be like, well, see, they did it again. They had everybody thinking one way.
By the way, we'll talk more about this Friday. They're very beatable. It's cornerback.
Sure.
So were the Packers, and that was the strange thing is I don't know, man. I'm just befuddled. I'm with you, man. I'm scratching my head when you see Hurts had the best game he's had in 2 years against Pittsburgh. Now, look, he was off for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, that's part of it. And that comment that he made with a concussion last Friday when he was allowed to speak,
Mm-hmm.
kind of said, like, did you catch that? And the reporters didn't really follow up.
Which one was it?
He said when he said they asked him about when he got hurt, and he said he didn't remember. I don't have the quote in front of me. He didn't remember this is his first concussion.
Right.
The way he said it was like, wait, did you mean you couldn't remember because of the concussion, or
right
2.5 weeks ago you just don't remember? Like, I don't know. I would have liked more clarity on that.
right
Bottom line is he didn't practice for 2.5 weeks. Maybe it was rust. But on your point, I'll leave you with this: you can't coach scared. Let the guy throw the football. Help him out when if he's holding on the ball too long. Do what you did in the third quarter. Pull the pass targets in.
Mm-hmm.
It made Jalen get rid of the football. By the way, Andy Reid did this with Mahomes when he struggles. He made him get rid of the football. Everything short. Get him in a rhythm. Get him comfortable. That's coaching. So that's it. That's all I got to say. But it's got to be better. This is ridiculous. Come on.
It does. I think that's the best way to end this. It has to be better, and we'll see if it is. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation.